Hello everybody, Sam from RoadTrailRun. Today we're going to take a look at the Adios Pro 4 compared to the Adios Pro 3. It's coming out in January, $250. Ryan Eiler, longtime Road Trail Run contributor, 214 at Boston this year, has been a longtime fan of the Adios Pro since his first review pair. And of course, he's run in many other super shoes. So he's going to do the comparison for us. So it loses about 16 grams, gets a new formulation of Light Strike Pro, a new upper, and a new light traction outsole. Ryan raced the Boston in the Adios Pro 3.
All right, Ryan from RoadTrailRun here. We've been fortunate to get our hands on some early samples of the Adidas Adios Pro 4. So we're going to do a quick compare of the 4, you see in the white here, versus its predecessor, the 3. At first glance, they look pretty darn similar in terms of geometry, in terms of their overall shape, in terms of their weight, and the way they're constructed. However, they do have some pretty significant differences going on here, primarily in the composition of the upper material, which we'll get into in a minute, as well as the Light Strike Pro foam underneath. So, first things first, we'll go top to bottom. This new upper material, I would say, is much kinder on the foot, much less tenacious than the previous version. It almost feels like a light brushed, much softer fabric. It's not as strong as the previous version. However, it works just as well in my opinion. They do have some nice underlays here on the inside. If you can see kind of these yellow ribbons running inside. They kind of run along the length of the shoe here and really give the upper a lot of nice structure and a lot of nice lockdown to kind of reinforce the lighter fabric they've gone with here. But all in all, it's a much more comfortable upper, I would say, as compared to the 3 here, which was a much rougher kind of plasticky, more tenacious and racer style mesh. But this newer one works really well, especially considering this is a marathon focused shoe. In the back here, the heel collar, pretty similar construction, although this is more of a brushed kind of finish. Again, a little nicer on the foot as compared to the 3, which had a more plasticky bumper here in the back. The tongue in the new version has a little bit more structure to it, and it also is tacked down on either side here, which is a nice touch because, you know, for me at least, compared to the previous version, this thing was all over the place. It was hard to kind of get your foot in and get it situated without it folding over. So minor upgrade there, but a nice touch. Moving towards the midsole, the new version, the 4, probably hard to tell here on camera, but it doesn't have quite as severe of a rocker here in the front. The rocker really starts further back in the shoe than it did in the previous version, which makes kind of more of a mellower transition. Whereas in the previous version, the rocker starts further forward and is a little bit more abrupt and snaps off the toe a little bit sharper. So in my running, it's not super drastic. You can tell a little bit of a difference. Not a total game changer, but it does make for a little bit of a mellower ride and a smoother transition. Moving on to the Light Strike Pro midsole here. By appearances, it looks pretty darn similar year over year, minus the dirt. However, you can definitely tell that they've gone with a softer composition here. This is not the same durometer as it was previously. The geometry is fairly similar, a little bit narrower in the midfoot here as compared to last year, but you can see, geometrically speaking, they're pretty darn similar. But like I said, much softer foam makes for a much softer and bouncier feeling ride. This new 4 feels much softer and I would say a little less stable as compared to the 3 here. So, especially in the heel, you'll notice they have kind of a cavity cut out here. And you can compare that to the 3 here, which has no such real cutout, much more minor. and it makes for a more dynamic, livelier ride. You know, if I just go ahead and squeeze the heel, you can see this really moves around quite a bit here. Whereas if I apply similar pressure to the 3, there's not a whole lot going on there. So between the softness of the foam, this extra cutout underneath the heel, you'll be moving around a lot more in this, although it does feel much bouncier, much livelier, kind of moving almost in the direction of like the way that New Balance shoes, the SC Elite, rides these days. Definitely not as extreme, but definitely moving towards the softer end of the spectrum. So I think that's just a matter of preference, really. Whether you like a soft and bouncy shoe or something firmer and more stable, as we saw in the 3. So moving on to the outsole, not a huge difference here. I mean, there are some minor differences. They have Continental rubber, now just in a isolated little patch where it gets the most abrasion up front, as compared to the 3, which had it kind of closer to the toe. In the heel, again, we have a cutout. There's kind of 2 separate patches of this light traction outsole, that they're calling it, versus what we had previously here. I didn't notice a huge difference. I mean, I think the outsoles work really well for what they're meant to do, so probably won't notice a whole lot there. They might have saved a little bit of weight in this area as well as in the midsole. So all in all, just a much softer, bouncier ride, I say, is the biggest difference, as well as some nice tweaks to the upper, which make it much more user-friendly. I forgot to mention, but the eyelets on the version 3, for me at least, up front here, inside the shoe, could cause some blisters, could cause some rubbing. In my opinion, they weren't designed perfectly. Whereas in this new version, lockdown is much more gentle. They have this, they call it light lock, but you can see the eyelets are of a different construction here. Much friendlier on the foot in general. So there you have it, the 4 versus the 3. It's going to be largely a matter of preference, whether you like a bouncier, more lively ride. The upper is definitely improved here, or if you like a more stable, a little bit firmer ride, as we saw in the 3. But if you like the 3, you'll probably like the 4.
Ryan and I are going to write our full multi-test review over at RoadTrailRun.com, so please stay tuned to that. We're going to compare it to the Evo 1 and also, of course, the Pro 3 as here. I managed to race mine yesterday, and they were really quite good. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great run. The samples were provided at no cost by Adidas Running for this review.